Welcome to AllieCat Customs. We're at the newly renovated Junkyard #1 Speedway here in Canton, Mississippi. And James has done a whole lot of winter upgrades to his car, including a transmission, a full transmission rebuild, new converter, and a lot of different things. So you get to see us do all of the winter upgrades, and then y'all get to see us right here at the track as he gets it shook down. So y'all stick around. So as y'all can see, I got the shop all cleaned out. That's because my buddy James is on his way right now, bringing this Firebird. You know, the same red Firebird that raced me right after I got the nitrous installed on my C10. And he red lit on me so that we couldn't possibly get a picture of my truck ahead of his at the track. Yeah, that Firebird. Anyways, I like to pick on James because he's got his car, I mean, way outrunning my truck now. He's done a lot of upgrades to it. And it's a really nice car for all the work he's done to it. He's done a good job on it. He's got a roll cage installed in it now, and he's done turned that OLS up pretty well. So last time he was actually at the dyno, he pushed past the torque converter on it. So he ordered a new torque converter from PTC. So we're going to be installing a torque converter and also installing a Driveshaft speed sensor from Motion Raceworks to really help him get that car dialed in, so he can try to pull all the power out of that LS in it. So we're really excited on it. Just wait on him to get here so he can throw it on the lift. So y'all stick around. All right, so now we got your car up on the lift. You want to tell everybody all the specs on this bad little Firebird you got? Absolutely.
It's a 1998 WS6 Trans Am. It is turbocharged. It's got a 6.0 LS in it, 364 cubic inch motor. Currently, it's actually on about 14 pounds of boost, and it runs pretty well for what it is.
What computer system you running?
I'm actually running Holley Terminator X on it. Okay. So the Holley, for several years I had the stock ECU on it and was constantly fumbling with that and messing with that. It is a 98 car with 99 ECU on it, so I was fumbling with that, trying to get it figured out, and finally I went with the Holley, and that was a very good decision.
Game changer on that one.
For sure.
That's the Turbo 400 transmission car?
Turbo 400 transmission, yep.
You got, is it a full, it's a reverse manual valve body on it?
Yep, reverse manual. Got the trans brake, yeah. All the good stuff on there. So it is a PTC Turbo 400 transmission. Right. It can handle some power.
Yeah, and you got 4 9-inch, and what kind of gears you got in?
Let's see, it's a 4 9-inch, got a 411 gear in it.
Got a spool?
Yes, so I've got Viking coilovers on all 4 corners. It's definitely a much better improvement over stock. It's nice to be able to make those adjustments and make the car work, especially I do a lot of no prep racing with this car, so definitely nice to be able to make those adjustments on, because I've been on some roads that if I didn't have that ability to make those adjustments, I probably wouldn't be able to get down it.
Definitely. Well, we've got to do all the specs on it, so enough babbling, let's get to turning some wrenches.
Let's make it happen.
So, how many new languages did you learn when you're sitting under that car trying to get that last bolt out? That little bit tiny F body, a trans tunnel, turbo 400.
Yeah, it's pretty tight under there for sure.
Yeah, but at least you know that you're gonna have your parts out, have all the room on the slack on your trans scooter lines and all that. That's pretty trick stuff.
Yeah.
So you got your PTC converter and Durabuilt. Durabuilt's actually local to us. They're based out of Jackson, Mississippi.
Yep.
But you run your PTC and tell them why you're swapping over to this one.
Yeah. So basically, when I had this converter spec for this car, I basically told them, hey, yeah, the car is good for about 600, 700 horsepower. And for a little while, when it was on 7, 8, 9 pounds of boost, that's where it was. Now the car is seeing between 14 and 15 pounds of boost. And when we last had the car on the dyno, we determined that this converter was finally tapped out. Basically, how we kind of discovered that was the engine kept pulling, and then we noticed that when we got the numbers back, it showed mid 600s, and we said, well, with 14 plus pounds of boost, this thing should be over 700 at least.
Yeah.
And then we started looking at the data and realized, okay, the engine's still pulling, but that power got to a certain RPM and it just was not getting the tires anymore. So called PTC and made an upgrade. And also the turbo 400 in this car is actually from PTC as well. So we figured just go ahead and just bring both together because they both work together well. Yeah, same company. So
yeah, when you're watching a mile an hour and the RPM's climbing together, and all of a sudden the RPM comes up and the mile an hour ain't, it's not a good sign.
Blowing through.
Yep. So we got it together. Now we got to make sure all the measurements are right. We got to have the correct pull out for the torque converter. Make sure it's not going to balloon and mess anything inside. So let's go ahead and get the measurements on there and get it stuck in there and see if you can get the bolts back in faster than you got them out of there.
I'll do my best.
That's why I stick to trucks, because this size car I think fit in a car like that. So let's get after it. Whenever you get done pretending you're driving a school bus.
I'm just trying to get that fluid down in there so it doesn't come spilling out everywhere.
Three bumps. It's weird because the converter is, the transmission's tilted up, so you...
Trying to find that sweet spot. I can't find it, but we know it's there. Hey, Michael, come in here and help me put this torque converter in this transmission.
Let me see if the third hand comes in here.
Here, I'll hold. There she is. There we go.
Yep.
Just had to get it just right.
Yep. And as you can tell, it's deep set in there. That's I measured earlier. It's all the way in. It's inch inset. So I can roll with it. Spins freely. Man, the joys of hot rodding. I bet y'all was expecting a full-on transmission install montage right about now. But see, what had happened was we had us a bit of an issue here at the shop. Turns out that the transmission was actually hurt. James we broke for lunch before we actually installed the transmission. And while we were eating lunch, James asked me, he says, is there anything we can do to tighten up second gear? He says, you know, is there some adjustments we can make? He said, I think second gear feels weak. And I was like, man, I said, that's a reverse full manual valve body trans brake set up in your transmission. I was like, there's not a lot of adjustment in it. I said, it should be working pretty tight. So what's it doing? So he shows me several videos of the past year or so of him at the track. And sure enough, second gear's weak. And I said, well, how's reverse? He says, well, you got to rev it up to get it to move in reverse. He said, but, you know, I just thought that's, you know, kind of how it works with this kind of setup. And I'm like, well, that's possible, but it's not really. If you have second gear issues and you're having reverse issues, that could be an internal problem with the transmission. And so we started talking about it, thinking about it. And he said, you know, when he first talked to me about putting a converter in his car, he said that they had overpowered it at the dyno. And I'm like, you know, that's possible that you could have done that. I said, if the transmission isn't hurt and you just overpowered the converter because you're trying to double the horsepower, then we could just put a converter in it and ride out. Well, after seeing that second gear was hurt and him telling me that reverse was kind of weak, I told him, I said, I can either rebuild the transmission here at the shop, or he knows a guy that works in a transmission shop. I said, you can take it to him and have him build the transmission. You know, it's the silly season, you know, Christmas and all the holidays and stuff. So trying to get parts and everything. I said, he probably has parts there at the shop. I said, I'd have to pull the transmission apart, see what's broke, order parts and all that kind of stuff. I said, you know, you'd be down for a bit. So he took the transmission to his buddy, and he's actually on his way right now to get the transmission put back in the car. And real quick, I want to say there's a lesson in that, and it's something that I appreciate from James a whole lot. James is always hungry for knowledge and hungry for learning. He loves to learn. And when I started this channel because I like building hot rods, and I always thought the idea of having a hot rod show or something like that would be the coolest thing ever, and YouTube's a pretty cool place to do that at. So I wanted to do that, and I love teaching people things. You know, I learned from a young age how to build hot rods. So I love sharing my knowledge. I want more people at the racetrack, not less. I don't want to gatekeep any knowledge that I learn. I want to share it with anybody else, anybody around, and anybody that'll listen. So somebody like James, this is his very first race car that he's ever built, from the front bumper to the back bumper. I mean, this is a full-blown race car. And he'll be the first to admit that he doesn't know everything about cars, but he is willing to learn. So that's a good lesson for anybody that's wanting to break into building hot rods and going racing. Always be open to learn. Always ask questions and stuff. And for the guys that know how to work on stuff, gatekeeping ain't cool. I mean, you go out there and race by yourself. We just got word that another local track here near me closed down. Lack of people at the track, and a lot of behind the scenes issues with that. So it's something you really need to help. I mean, if guys are trying to ask you questions and trying to learn about your sport, man, help folks. It's something that I've always loved to do, and I love learning myself, and I love teaching others. So that's one thing that I give James a lot of credit for, is when he doesn't know, he'll sure ask somebody. And that's what I appreciate about him. Wish he'd have asked me about the transmission before we was about to stick it in the car, but at least he did before we actually had it in the car and was trying to take it to the track. That would have been an experience. But he's on his way right now with the transmission. So hopefully in a few hours we can have this car running. Teeth that direction. It's in. Yep. She's in.
Glad you found it, 'cause I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's, you got the two shafts, and you got the two teeth on the pump trying to get in there. I happened to see where the ears was.
Yeah. All right, so while we're under here, went ahead and just checked and just make sure there was no leaks on the cooler lines. So we've got the transmission in, got the drive shaft speed sensor in as well. So our next stop is going to be, we're going to take this car to the dyno and see if we can make some numbers. So we'll see you over there.
You know, it's really funny. I talked in the intro that we was at the track, and then all throughout the video, because we actually filmed that early, we're all going to the dyno.
Yeah.
And then now we're sitting in the shop with your car on the lift. So
yeah,
everybody's like, wait, what happened? Did the car break? No, the car didn't break. We just kind of winged it the whole way through.
Pretty much, yeah.
So the dyno, they had issues with the dyno.
Yeah.
So we didn't get to dyno it, but hey, if you go to the track and you run a number at the track, you can figure out the horsepower. So
that's all that really matters anyway, is that number at the end of the day.
Turning wind lights on. So and also this is, you know, I noticed at the track, it's the first time I've been at the track in 2 years, at least 2 years. First time you've been at the track in a year.
It's pretty much a year to date.
Yep.
From the last time I'd actually made it.
Because you actually looked up your pictures.
Yep.
And Amy, my wife Amy, had never been to the track. So it was a lot going on, and so I was trying to make sure, because like you said, how fast was this car before you took it to the track?
I think my best time was like a 676 at like 103, 104, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
and I could tell he was actually pretty nervous.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, you turn the car up, you put all this stuff in there, and you don't know what it's going to do. And I mean,
the transmissions actually feels like it's hooking. So you're like, oh crap. You know, I have a rocket and have no idea which direction this rocket's about to go. And now you're about to throw it on, what, 10 pounds of boost you left on and let go of the button?
I actually turned the boost down on the launch a little bit.
Just for the first pass.
Just for that first pass, just to make sure, okay, it's going to go straight, it's going to do what it's going to do, because last thing I wanted, I mean, originally whenever I first got there, yeah, it was on about 10, 12 pounds of boost leaving. I was like, let me just knock that down a little bit, because I'm strapping into this car. I don't know what it's going to do.
Don't know which direction it's going to go. And, you know, so and that's on me. Y'all can be mad at me. I didn't. We filmed the passes. We'll show you the passes, but we didn't film anything. And then we finally was done. Everybody's calm. Everybody's had a good day. I turned the camera on and we're going to film and do the talking. And then a herd of banshees and other bikes shows up, and you couldn't hear anything at that track.
Yeah.
So we said, yeah, we're just going to pack up and come here so we can actually talk about things.
Right.
So you know, let's get into what's going on with the car.
Absolutely.
So now that you've had this car, after we got it running over the winter and stuff, you've actually drove this car around town, terrorizing all the neighbors and all the kids at school. And,
Oh yeah.
And you actually, so we've had it at the track. So what do you think about the car now that now we got the car turned up?
Well, so if you remember the statement I made, I've always kind of been a not so serious racer, but I'm now in a serious situation here.
Yes.
So I know that I'm going to have to kind of take things a little more seriously, because let's be honest, the car is running low sixes, and there's still a lot left in it. You got to be careful.
A low 6 and an 8 is like a mid 9s.
Yeah.
And a mid 9-second car, I mean, that's like, that can hurt you.
Yeah.
That can hurt you quick, fast, and in a hurry if something gets off. I mean, so it's, you know, when you're playing with grandma's old car and you ride down the road, it cuts a 15-second quarter mile, you don't have it's no problem. That car, something's wrong, it can be bad in a hurry.
Absolutely.
So,
Gotta be careful.
So yeah, so we'll go over the passes, because your first pass, and I mean, and I could tell that he was nervous, because I was like, I was telling him, you know, we're game planning, like, hey, you know, just make sure if something happens, you know, if it goes on the bumper, you know, don't hit the brakes. He goes, I got this. I was like, you know, ride it out. He says, yep. He said, I'm gonna ride it out. He says, do what I can. So let's show him the first pass without our commentary, and then we talk about how much of a disaster it was.
Yeah, the first one wasn't great, but that's why we do this.
Yeah, so y'all watch this. So yeah, so that was an interesting pass, and actually with your the speed sensor,
Driveshaft speed sensor.
the Driveshaft speed sensor, we actually saw it, and you know, you could watch, because you can see your throttle input. So your throttle input goes up, the RPMs goes up, and then it launches, and then it goes on the wheel speed, goes slam out of sight, and falls back down. So it's on camera, seeing, you know, you watch the car literally get the back tires light, because it crow hops so bad, you know, and then you see it actually spun. I couldn't really tell that on camera how much wheel speed it hit all of a sudden, and that's why it started veering off on you. And so yeah, we had you had 13 pounds of pressure in the tires at first pass.
Yeah, it was just from what I've always kind of known about drag slicks. You know, most guys I've talked to, they usually run 13, 14, 15, somewhere in that window there. So I said, okay, I'll start at 13, and if it doesn't do what it's supposed to, if it wads the tire or whatever, we'll adjust from there. And we learned real quick that 13.
Yeah, with the setup on the car, it actually, because you're not running bead locks, it actually spun the tire on the rim, which is, that's playing Russian roulette with the car. That's dangerous. So we up their pressure. We kept up a couple pounds of pass, and it got
better and better as we upped it. So.
It got better and better, and it's still wadding the tires up. Now, just know that we have, you know, you built this car, and you've kind of, you know, played at the suspension, but you've never really taken it seriously because the car wasn't that fast.
Right. It always ran high sixes,
Yep.
you know, mid to high sixes, and you know, just it's.
So we don't have any idea, like, you know, what the lower control arm angles are. You don't know where the the instant center is on this car. We don't know the shock settings, so we don't have anything written down really. It's just kind of like what you put together on the car and run it. So there's no baseline to this car, which, you know, don't ever do that. That's actually really bad advice, to let go of the button on a car with this much horsepower without a baseline. So I mean, and it left straight, which is great. So I'm happy about the car, and you have a whole list of things we got to get done before it gets hot and you find air conditioning for the summer.
Yeah. So once we hit about June, I'm probably gonna go get on the water somewhere, just because I don't do heat too well, and in being a turbo car, they tend to not really do heat too well either. So
yeah, and Mississippi in June, Mississippi is it's a forest fire.
Yeah,
literally, it's insane.
Once it hits the mid 90s and that humidity and stuff, I just don't really care to be out there. It's
literally a sauna.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, you got a whole bunch of stuff like that went on. So now that we have the shakedown runs and we know what's got going on, we got it on the lift, and we're actually taking things seriously. And so you got several upgrades to do, because you actually had an oil pressure issue when he launched that actually saw he had oil pressure issues. So we're doing that, and a couple other things. And I'm actually ordering scales. I'm about to get scales in, because back in the day when I used to work on race cars or stuff with other people, it was always somebody with the scales. We had to borrow scales, and it was like this big deal. And I'm wanting to get back into racing and stuff. And the best way to do it is have your own scales, where you can do your own work. And I can tune other people's cars, like yours and mine. And you know, I got another friend going. You know, Chandler's got his truck. I'll be working on it. So we're doing that. So I'm super excited, and I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope y'all enjoyed this car. And I have a full build series. We're showing the transmission build, actually showing the transmission install in a converter, and the Driveshaft speed sensor, doing a full review on it, and a actual how-to install on it. And as you see, the car's back in the shop again, so we're going to be doing more upgrades, baseline on the suspension, and then we'll do videos on tuning it.
Yep.
And this fall, whenever it cools back down and you actually bring it back out to play with it,
yep,
we might put the party tune on this thing and see if you can put a 590 instead of a 620 on the time.
So that's the ultimate goal, is to get this car in to have a true 5-second street car. That's the ultimate goal. And once we get that, I'm sure, knowing how I am, it'll go to a 5 to a mid 5, and
yep,
we'll just kind of go from there.
Pushing the envelope. So hope y'all enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure you hit the like button, and make sure you subscribe, and keep on coming back so you can see more of this bad little WS6 Trans Am, instead of calling it a Firebird like I did. Yeah, it's the same thing. But seeing that bad little WS6 and see more James and stuff and all that. So y'all keep on coming back right here at AllieCat Customs.